Hello, everyone. A very warm welcome to our next conversation in the Pi Project series. These conversations are conversations about human resilience, the human spirit, and our ability to carry on in life. And these stories are being told by ordinary people living ordinary lives, but have extraordinary stories to tell because of their lived experiences. Because life is never linear. It always comes up with some twists and turns. And our resilience really shows up in how we navigate these challenges. The hope is that people listening in are able to connect to their own pi, their own power inherent, and be inspired to take action in their life situations. I'm very, very happy to invite today as a guest V.S. Raj, who's a dear friend and known him for quite some time now. Raj, a brief introduction to Raj. Raj is working as a senior vice president in the banking sector in a very large organization based out of Mumbai. And as we were chatting up when before we started this conversation, he was saying that he has 35 years of wisdom, work wisdom, and that's something that we want to look at, share, and invite people to hear. Welcome, Raj, to this session.
Thank you, Priya. Thank you for inviting me. Very, very happy to be participating in this program and hope I can be of some use with my wisdom.
Absolutely. And that's the hope for the project as well. So, Raj, if you were to describe yourself, just to let the audience who's listening in to know, get a sense of who you are. It's the best way you can describe Raj today.
Okay, I've been the same for the last time I can remember. I've
Mm.
not changed. And I think I have been a fun loving, enjoy my life. I somehow have supreme confidence in me to do anything.
Mm.
So let me tell you, even in my school days, I used to prefer not watching a cricket match, but I would rather go and play it and prove that I can be the best. And I carried that forward through my education, my college, my work. So if I didn't get a job, I would think that it is sad for the company that didn't hire me, and they missed out on a great guy. So it's a lot about my personality, my self confidence, and that's what I am.
Wow. And I love it that you wear it on your sleeve. You know, this joy for living, this joy for experiences, the joy for carrying on in life, right? And it's not easy because it's also something that one needs to keep in mind when life throws curveballs at you. And I know that, it's to keep this vision of joy and happiness and gratitude, if I may say, right? And the confidence didn't come, it's natural to you, but it still remains so despite the challenges that you have faced. So, invite you to just share some of these challenges that sort of took your life off
Sure.
the track and how you were able to sort of dip into this power that's inherent in you.
Sure, Priya. I think so. Let me put it this way. You don't want to sound philosophical, but life is always of challenges.
Mm.
Something or the other will always be a bump, a speed breaker, or something to climb so that you can get to the other side. We don't know what's there on the other side. And it's a lot about hope. That's what I have believed in. I have rarely looked in the rear view mirror.
Mm.
And every time I look at the rear view mirror, it's only about what quickly I learned, but I have with zero regrets. But I must say that throughout this journey, in whether it's my first job or my, when I got into college or everything, right? I remember not regretting, but picking up a lesson or two, which has slightly even turned the way I have maneuvered and behaved. It's always easy to look in the rear view mirror and give a lot of learnings, but I have consciously gone about changing certain things in me. I think for this meeting, I don't want to go back to 30, 40 years, but I'll stick to some 10, 12 years of my last work experience or the time I have gone through several things, which has a little twist in terms of what you go through and how you can come out of it, right?
Sure.
So, I'll start with a very interesting experience, like everybody else, right after the 2009 financial bust. I still had a job, so I was very happy with that. But I was hoping that every other price falls down and I can buy my dream house. So anybody who came to me in 2009 or 10, I actually started in all earnest bargaining like anything. To a point, I didn't buy anything in terms of I wanted a dream house. I never bought it. But then I saw it turn around and it kept climbing and climbing. And by 2015, my wife was desperate, saying, "What the hell are you doing, man? Buy a house for yourself." And you won't believe it, at the peak of Mumbai prices, I actually bought an apartment. It took almost 12 years for now to get to the same levels. Okay. It almost took 9 or 10 years. So, one of the learnings is when you buy a house, don't look at it as an investment. When you buy a house, it's for living. You're never going to sell it. But you tend to, when you put money, you always trying to look for an investment. So you quickly get out of it. So anyway, rewind back. We bought the house, very thrilled with it. We spent another 10-15% money and, as you know, like blow it up in terms of putting all the beautiful stuff. And we were hardly there in that place for 6 or 7 months when one day I got a mystery call and not a mystery call. My wife called saying, "Come home fast. There is a fire." So I thought it is some, some leakage somewhere. So by the time I reached home, there were, and I didn't realize I went up the elevator of all the wrong things to do. Then came out of the elevator in all that smoke, didn't know what was happening, and then found that my house has completely almost like a bombing on the Gaza Strip. In a matter of 4 or 5 hours, that whole place was completely burnt out. It was a short circuit of some electrical connection. Fortunately, me, my wife, my children, all of us were able to get out. But that left a very, difficult, it was a difficult time for us because unfortunately at that time, a lot of people lost their lives and we were left on the road with just fortunately I had a wallet with me, nothing else. So it was very, very, very difficult for us. But the only thing I always felt then was, look, nothing happened to near and dear ones, but it left bad taste because a lot of people would assume that they thought like these guys must have done something wrong in their house for something like this to happen. And for several years, it was like a major scar. Even if you walk down the elevator or something, people would, what happened? And did you switch off this? Did you switch on that?
Right, right.
And then the cops come in and they ask you all kind of crazy. And fortunately, there were CCTVs that were able to prove beyond doubt that we couldn't have done anything. And neither was the renovation that we did had anything to do with it. But there's no point in saying that because people will say that they were the cause of this whole event.
Right.
Leave aside the whole financial loss. It is traumatic to a point that my family said, "Let's move out of this place." So I said, "No, we are not moving out because if we do that, then everybody will think there was something more to it."
Right.
And they will talk. So we continue to live there. Until date, I continue to live there. I think at that moment I realized that it is very easy to run away. Hang in there, guys. This too shall pass. Think about it like a bouncer and just leave it. And again, just a couple of years later, you know what, the whole lockdown,
Yes, yes.
all that stuff happened. It was the first time. We never thought something like a lockdown can ever happen.
Yeah.
And we were not even prepared for what it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
So, we were all open to everybody working from home and all that stuff. But surprise, when COVID hit, we had a lockdown from March. In the month of May, in my society, which had about 180 families, I was the first to be struck by COVID. Unfortunate, or what you call, because today we can laugh about it, big deal,
No.
right?
Yeah.
But in those days, it was almost like you got hold of leprosy. In the next day, the BMC was there. They put a lockdown. They put up all those notice boards. My neighbors were shunning me like something has happened. In fact, somebody even said like, Do you think these guys are fit to live in the apartment?
Right.
And then the other
Initially.
question was, where did you get it? I mean, as if you go and buy like a vegetable, you got hold of that COVID guy and brought him to your home, and it was bad. I had to be hospitalized, and I was there for about I think about a week. But before I came, I found out that my whole family who were living at home, they all got some forms of COVID, but not hospitalized.
Mm-hmm.
Once again, I am at the center of all this. My wife is again going through all a mess. People are having all these side conversations. There's even one somebody we heard was trying to find out with the rest of the society member, should these guys be living here? I don't know what it would end up, but at least. But you know what? The way I looked at it is like when I was in the hospital, I didn't have an iota of doubt that this is going to be just a few more days. I never started thinking that world is coming to an end, and I must be unlucky or something like that. It was traumatic because it was the first experience, and you
Yes.
nearly go into a state where people think. People start imagining what could have happened to you, and there's no news of you coming from the hospital as well. So again, I think this kind of a scenario, as I told you, right? I am a huge believer of, or rather, I have so much self confidence and energy in myself that I thought this was a passing phase. Forget about it, and just sheer grit. I kind of thought positive things, and I moved on. Right. And then within a year, I think this whole piece had died down, and life became normal. And again, during this whole time, obviously, I have been working, and not that my organization was giving me any special leave. That go ahead, take a leave. You're going through this house problem, and then you are having this COVID. And since I was working with all these global clients, there was never a situation where anybody could see that this guy is missing. Right. I would call it third time lucky, or what you call it. There was a third strike in just another year, and this one was a bit more severe. That I got diagnosed for multiple myeloma, and I realized that it was a third stage multiple myeloma, which firstly I didn't even know what it was. I have not been a biology student. I was always a science guy, but not bio. So then we had to go through all the Googling, and then I realized we have to do less of Google also at sometimes. Right. And go look for the right doctors. Multiple myeloma, as you know, was one of the forms of blood cancer, and you have to. And since it was a third stage, I had to be more careful that it had spread right up my knees, and I had to go through, I would say, at least innumerable chemotherapies and at least about 15-20 radiations. And I must have been looking younger, maybe when I was in my 10th class. I had lost about so many kgs during this whole process. Then I had a bone marrow transplant, and I came out of it. Now this is going to be after the transplant in 21 and 22, 23. It's going to be about, I think, 2.5 years, or almost I'll hit the third year at the end of it. And I must say that time was very crucial. And you have children who are, my son is at that time was 20, my daughter 25. You don't realize what's going on people's mind, right? Absolutely. They're still yet to get to college, get out of college, and suddenly your father has got a disease. Whether he will survive, not happen, and I'm sure they must have gone through all the chaos. During all this, I must say that this is not something which is natural, but I think I must say a few words about Vidya. I have found with all the confidence, energy, all that I keep talking, she will remain the most calm. She will not speak much. You will see her smiling, very, very calm. And she remained during all this crisis. She never let me think that she was feeling impacted. She never let my kids feel that there is something majorly wrong. Even though they're all majors, they all know what this is all about. Once again, the same thing, right? Oh, no, don't worry. We got a good doctor. Don't worry about it. It's all over. You just have to be a little careful. Take your right food. Move on in life. Sometimes the lesser you know, you're better off, right?
Mm.
You try to do your Google PhD about all this, you will feel that you're going to die the next day
Right.
or within another year, right? And then you go into a spiral. To me, I used to go for a chemo every Saturday so that I can be in office on Monday to Friday, whether it is a chemo or whether it's a radiation Saturday. And my daughter, son, one of them will accompany me, be with me the whole day. So that's how it went for almost 2 years. It was a traumatizing time for me. But big learning again was I never thought about it, but I
Mhm.
realized if you remain confident, energetic, think about the positive things, you will get through it. There was a time where I thought I'm going to die. There was one particular day in that place when I was down and out. But somehow that one night I survived. And then you continue back the way you start thinking. You get out of it like in a very, very positive way. So I'm now a big believer that if you keep your mind thinking
Mm.
positive,
Mm.
you are out. In fact, now, to tell you, Priya, I have joined a gym and I
Good
want to
for you.
build my muscles. God knows that
Absolutely.
I'll never build a muscle, but my point is that the whole thought process of going there and doing all this stuff is super exciting.
Yeah.
Okay,
But I think
so
when all of this happens, you don't give up on yourself. I
correct,
think that is what's really coming through, that it all of this may happen,
correct,
good things, bad things, but you don't give up on yourself. And of course, it's also about, it takes a lot of courage to be able to find that in that moment, right? And we say very often that it's not really the situation that creates a problem, it's how we think about the situation that creates a
right,
problem, and
right.
your experience. And I love how, even as you narrate it, you're narrating it with a sense of humor and lightness. I'm sure at that moment it wasn't so, but to be able to talk about it. So, if you were to say, what was that? And I'm sure you had people, because Vidya, your wife, your
Yeah,
children, your ecosystem was extremely supportive. What's the message that you would like to send out, maybe to somebody who's
yeah,
listening? Yeah, all of
yeah. So,
this.
couple of things, Priya. During that, I would also say that you try surround yourself in
Hmm.
those times with positive thinking people.
Hmm.
Okay, there'll be a lot of positive thinking people, but they'll always come to you with some solution also. They say, oh, no, 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 you go to this,
Hmm.
you go to this Ayurveda, go to. I don't want to do all that, guys. I'm all set, but just give me the positive. So just be with people who enjoy life, smiling, want to do some good stuff.
Yeah.
Think about going for a holiday next month. Those things you won't believe it. I feel so excited about it. So I put a list of what all I want to do when I get out of this.
Hmm.
I said, I'll go to this place, I'll go to Kashmir, I'll go to this, I'll take a road trip, I'll drive down. You end up doing all that stuff. So that's the thought of it was super. The only thing my wife at that time was saying that, I started watching a lot of food YouTubes. She said, stop it because I started eating also because when you start watching too much, you start eating. So then with
Right.
great difficulty, I had to get out of that food thing
Oh.
and focus on other nicer things we can do without impacting my health.
In a
So
way, it's almost like visualizing, right?
you
Visualizing
have to.
yourself.
So actually, you know what? I forgot to mention there was another gentleman called Luke Cutino. You might have heard of him. He does a lot of lifestyle changes, mostly in food and other stuff. Pretty popular in Mumbai. You see a lot of YouTubes about him. We wanted to hire somebody to help me with my teaching what has to be done. He spent time with me only on telling me how positive I should be, which was
Mm.
very surprising. He didn't spend time telling me, no, no, you should eat this cucumber juice or that and all that. That some of his subordinates did come back to me with saying all that, but his time was spent about saying that what you visualize is
Mm.
what you get. And that kind of somewhat reinforced, I don't know, it was inherent in me. I didn't realize it. Like I used to tell, right? I used to want to play cricket rather than watch. I wanted to be the winner in those games and play. So it kind of reinforces in you that if you think there is a good chance that you will do that. So I must say that was another important topic that you visualize something as you just put it. It makes a big difference. That is,
Mm.
I would say. Anyway, to that point.
Yeah. It also comes from a very strong belief saying that, yeah, this is the reality. Let me look beyond. As you said, plan your holiday, something to energize you to move forward. And that gives you the energy to move forward. Correct?
Exactly, exactly. And it's about visualization is one. Try as much as possible to surround with positive thinking people.
Right.
What I mean is, there are people within the family who care for you, but they're not positive. They'll all be saying, "Oh, why did it happen to you?" and all that.
Yeah.
Just
And I
avoid
think the
them.
last thing you want is sympathy, right?
Exactly. You don't want sympathy. You don't want all these other things, and it will kind of cloud you. Get rid of all that. I also did not talk about it. Anybody would ask me something, I'll just move on and go to other topics because I was already getting bored about this hearing from my own doctor, right? So, how much
Right.
more you want to listen to it? You
Yeah.
already have a guy who's trying to cure you, and leave it to that guy. He'll do his best, but make sure you identify a good doc, right? So,
Yeah.
obviously, you're not going to quack, then start second guessing people who are helping you on this. So those are a couple of pieces I would say have reinforced my learning. It's not about I found some new aha moment. It just reinforces things which many of us read in our schools, colleges, but we don't, I call it, realize the power of it till you go through it.
Absolutely.
I must say, I did this so called MBA in my life right after my engineering grad. And I used to find all the learnings then very funny. I used to think, what are these guys talking about soft skills and EQ and all that stuff? Crazy guys, you have to get your head down and start working. And then when you work, slowly things unravel. And but there are obviously smart guys like Ramesh who understood those meanings much earlier than I. But I would say that some of these are good learnings that you also can go through, but you have to internalize, recognize, get that out, and be able to lead a more smarter life.
It's also about it becoming part of who you are, right? I mean,
Exactly.
reading is one thing, knowing about it is another thing. But when it really impacts you and you
Correct.
go through it, is when these learnings really come alive.
It also calms you down a lot. A lot of us, Priya, can get disappointed at various turns in our career.
Absolutely.
We have a bad boss, we have a bad deal, something or the other happened, and we all had a bad deal in a company or in a business or whatever, right? And then you blame luck, you blame everything. So I would just say move on to the next piece and don't think too much. Just take out what could I have done, go to the next stuff. Because if you try to do too much on it, it only leads a bad taste. In fact, I must say that at this point I want to add some very interesting comment I heard. So I've not been able to practice. It was from Sri Ravi Shankar. He says in Hindi, "Sukh ko bhi tyag do or dukh ko bhi tyag do." You'll be very happy. So I have not been able to do that. When you are happy, right? So he takes you to a different level. The other one I was recently also trying to internalize what Rajneesh Osho. He says, live for today. You're missing the game by trying to live for tomorrow and making a mess of it. Huge eye opener, some of these, right? And I used to think like you have to visualize, but live for the day. So anyway, so I'll pause here, Priya. Otherwise, this can overrun your planned.
Thank you, Raj. It was a pleasure. And I mean, you've talked about some big things in such simple ways. And I think that is the spirit, right? That is the resilience. That's the really the power to be able to look at life like that and not, be all consumed by it. Next step today, keep an eye on what more on hope, all of that.
Correct.
So, as we close this conversation, Raj, I know you're grateful to your wife, to your children, and to your doctors, your ecosystem that has supported you through this. Who else or what else are you grateful for?
Yeah.
Some of us
So,
have, some of us don't have. We
yeah,
have an ecosystem that supports
correct.
us. You have books that come your way.
You
You
know,
have
I,
talk.
I read a lot. I stopped reading management books. Okay, I used to read at one point of time. Now I stopped reading management type of books. I read all kind of books. I always pick up a few things. I read books like Robin Sharma. I also read. Let me say all kind of books, business theory, all that stuff. So that's been a big source of learning for me. See, there are some experiences in life that you learned a lot from some great managers or colleagues you work with. So, I'm still very proud that I worked in a company called Jekis, where Ramesh also worked. And I found that that was one company where you look around and every second guy is also very smart. So it rubs off on you, right?
Yeah.
You're not trying to give gyan, but you're trying to take gyan all the time. It's a very big difference, right? Then that's when I say surround yourself with the people you can, and 200% you will grow out or grow into something. But I must say, my dad, if he listens to this, he'll be laughing because he thinks that I've never achieved anything. If I tell him that I'm giving this piece, he'll say fortunately, he's hale and hearty. He does his own thing. He's 87, and proud. And we the other piece for me was that I was fortunate to live or work in almost all parts of India, right? So I lived in Calcutta, Indore, Bhopal, Delhi, Bangalore, Bombay, Chennai. I mean, I haven't yet done many of the tier 3 cities living. It is difficult for the family, but I think it's a great experience. It helps you get a rounded way of going and attaching yourself to communities. Otherwise, we are always many people. They are born in Bombay, die in Bombay, right? They've spent 50 years. So what do you see? You haven't seen anything, right? So it's not about just seeing in the sense, what I mean is you learn something out of all that.
Right.
Those are my pieces. I can go on naming a lot of. In fact, I've learned from my subordinates. Yeah, that's a very interesting comment I must make. I used to be a sales manager at one point, and there were sales guys me who taught me how to sell. You won't believe this. They taught me when to shut up and get out of the meeting. Otherwise, the sale will can be opened up again. Amazing piece. So you have to be looking out for pieces of wisdom. That's all I would say. We always think leader is only somebody who is 3 levels above. We forget there are guys who are below you, besides you,
Right.
who are constantly pouring some great knowledge at you.
Yeah. And one just needs to be ready to receive it.
You have to receive it. You may not immediately recognize it, but think about it and you will realize it's a fantastic message. You have to be receptive, and next time you fine tune yourself.
Right.
Right. That's how I have led so far, and I still have huge. I want to do this. I want to do that. I'm still looking at 10 possibilities as we speak.
Yeah.
So I think it keeps me going.
Thank you so much, Raj. And I'm walking away feeling energized. I'm thinking about possibilities. I'm thinking about future. I'm thinking about hope. I'm also thinking that along the way, learn, right?
Absolutely.
And learning is available everywhere around you. And this is fantastic and very inspiring, Raj.
Hope so. Hope so.
Sure.
People will, what took me 35 years, people can at least get in 1 year.
We never know how and when things touch,
applies.
right? And that's the hope with this spy project, that you can go listen to it. Some stories may inspire you, some stories may not inspire you.
Exactly.
Sometimes some stories may inspire you, and we don't know. So what we're really looking at is to inspire people, like I said in the beginning, to be able to connect with their own inherent power that we call pi. Find your pi. It's there. It just, it's there within you. There is energy, there is power within you. Just, you've got to look for it, believe in it, believe you have it, and that would energize you to carry on in life. So that's the hope and wish.
I'm sure you're doing an excellent work on this, Priya. So when I first, you contacted me on this, I was not too sure. What is this? Am I doing? We're talking about personal stuff. And then the moment you start looking at the positive side of it, that talk about it, you can make others, somebody can benefit from it, and so on. And you feel good about it. I'm glad that you're doing something like this as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Raj. Thank you for this conversation.
Welcome.
It was a pleasure. It was an absolute pleasure.